I'm Joshua Wolf, Senior Director of Solutions Consulting for the partnership team here at Tealium. And Jeff, if you would, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Great. Jeff Lunsford, excited to be here with our partners, Credera. I've been involved with Tealium since the beginning, 13 years ago, when we believed the industry needed a real-time data platform to help all enterprises connect and collect all their customer data and activate it in real time across all delivery channels. So excited to be here.
Thanks, Jeff. And Phil, if you had a little bit of intro, please.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Phil Lockhart, Chief Digital Officer of Credera. And we've been proud partners of Tealium for 12 years now and worked in a lot of capacities with Tealium on helping our clients solve some great problems using the technology. So I'm personally responsible for helping create new service offerings, both in MarTech and commerce, and super excited to lean into the topic of AI today.
Thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. As the partner solutions consultant here at Tealium, I get to deal with amazing partners like Credera, and I've been working with them for many years. And then, of course, as a Tealium team member for over 10 years, I've known Jeff for a long time. I'm really interested in the insights that they'll have to share with us today on AI in general and how your business can take advantage of AI to help you more successful. And I'm just going to ask the two of them some questions. And as far as the audience, if you all have any questions or comments that you'd like to add, please feel free to type them in the chat. We'll try and answer them during the course of our discussion. We may have some time for questions and answers at the end. So we want to make this as interactive as possible. To start off, I'm going to ask Jeff a question, and I'm just going to say, what sort of AI mandates do businesses have these days? And is it the same for every business? And what do businesses really need to do to use AI to their greatest advantage?
Sure, Josh. So this stuff is advancing so rapidly, and many of us were here when the internet came on the scene, and companies either embraced the web or they fell behind. Same thing with mobile. Companies either embrace mobile or they fell behind. And so, I summarize the AI mandate as this is as big or bigger than either one of those technological revolutions, and companies that do not study it religiously and furiously, because it's evolving so rapidly, and figure out how to, number one, improve customer experience, which grows top line, but also number two, how to improve internal operations, which improves bottom line. Those companies that don't do that are going to fall behind, and there's going to be an innovation gap. And the companies that do embrace AI are going to be the new market leaders. And that could be a 3-person startup, or that could be a 300,000 person large company. And we'll see in 5 years who really leaned in and who did not. So culturally, really, just from board levels on down, our advice is everyone needs to lean in as much as possible.
Excellent. I think that's it's a real important way of looking at it. And I think from my point of view as well, I'm trying to weave AI into every sort of area that I can in my daily practice here. And it's not that I fear like I'm going to get replaced by AI. I think that I need to be careful because my competition is just people who will be using AI better than me. So I need to stay on top of it as well from an individual's point of view. I guess, Phil, did you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think specifically, we're seeing lots of opportunities for our clients, and what they're doing is they're trying to figure out how do they embrace this, and some of the challenges that they're experiencing, really pinpoint in on, data collection and the quality of the data, on that they know that that's important to them. And one of the things that they're trying to figure out is what are these challenges? At the end of the day are they collecting enough data, like comprehensively? And secondarily with that, is it going to be comprehensive? Is it getting enough information, within that? So, because at the end of the day, what they want to make sure is that this data is going to be the kind of the backbone of it. So low data quality is going to result in two things: bias of the models, as well as optimal predictions, within that. And there's a couple ways that people can address that, but it really puts it into perspective of like what this why is like the lone banana problem, which was just an example of a situation like when the generative AI was first launched, it was very dependent on the data that it was trained on. So the generative AI could produce like these incredible images within it, and if you asked it to create pictures of bananas, it would have a nice background, have bananas within it. But the challenge would happen is that it was bunches of bananas. If you asked for it to actually create a single banana, it would still produce images of bunches of banana. And the reason is like, what was the data trained on? So that's an example of making sure you understand the importance of the data quality and just the comprehensiveness of this. Do you have great representation of this? Because otherwise you're not going to get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, I've seen that with some of our customers as well. Not having the right sort of quality and scope of data definitely results in issues downstream with the results. And coming from a background of data collection here and sort of understanding that level of detail, I think our customers have a real advantage because Tealium is able to help them collect that scope of data. I think, Jeff, from your point of view, why do you see so many AI projects relying on delayed and batched insights when it would be more powerful to leverage AI in real time? And really, what do businesses need to consider to speed up AI projects to work in real time?
Sure. So I'll tell you what we're seeing in the real world in our customers. Most large companies have been playing with data science and AI modeling for over 5 years. Those teams have typically been setting up what they call data pipelines. So they're knocking on doors of the various delivery channels like the email team and the call center team and the loyalty team, and they're getting pipelines of data that they then have to wrangle and label into something that they can then feed into their AI models. And that is a slow and expensive process, not even technologically slow, but just organizationally slow. So what we are preaching is, folks, if you are using a real-time data platform already in marketing to collect event level data and turn that into visitor profiles and then activate those visitor profiles through all your delivery channels, guess what? Your AI teams are going to be delighted when they find out they can use this as a data source. And that real-time data is much more valuable. It saves money. You don't have to wrangle it. It's already real-time. In a lot of these AI use cases, like determining customer sentiment in a call center of someone who just called in and what they were perhaps rage clicking on before they called into the call center, or next best product recommendations when someone's online shopping. All these AI fueled customer experiences need the real-time behavioral data that describes what that customer's interests and intent are. They need it at runtime. They need it at time of inference. You can't train an AI like an LLM. You can't go train it on the future behavioral data of your customers on your website. So we're preaching basically, and the other big thing we're preaching is consent, right? So you can't take customer data and of consented customers and go train a model, and then post-training, let's say some of these customers opt out. Now your model is tainted. So really the only time and the best time to combine your behavioral customer data with your AI models is at time of inference, at runtime. That's the safest time to do it because then you can ensure compliance. And so tracking consented, real-time, and filtered data to feed into whatever AI models you're using over here is really important. And that word filtering is important because you may have, 800 attributes in a data layer in like a customer data warehouse, but there may be only 40 of them that will give signal to let's say a content recommendation algorithm or to the fraud algorithm that banks are using to identify fraud. So clean, consented, real-time, filtered, enriched data is what you want to optimally send to your AI platforms. And all of you need to be meeting with the AI teams and the data scientist teams inside your companies and showing them this great data set that Credera has helped you define, or a Tealium has helped you define, or whatever vendors you're using have helped you to define. Because I'll tell you, these data scientists will be delighted when they realize they can plug into this one source rather than having to go build a bunch of batch pipelines.
And that's often what I hear when I talk to these data scientists, is that they have that sort of batched pipeline already in, they've built it out, and they don't even know that they have that option. They don't know that the option for the real-time approach is even available. And, spoiler, it is available. So don't settle for that delayed approach and try and, personalize your customers' experiences based on what they were doing 6 hours ago or yesterday, right? Make sure that you're being as forward thinking as possible, and that you have that real-time sort of capability.
To that point, Jeff, you brought up a really good element, which is the consent, and the information that's on there. And I just want to make sure that this gets nailed home, because it's incredibly important, is just really the challenges with data quality. Usually the way that people approach this is with data governance. Oftentimes in the past, that's like large efforts that are like, let's install an MDM program within here. It's manual efforts. And often those things happen post-process, as you mentioned.
Yep.
And, the issue of that is that it's going to cause a lot of problems. So it has to be thought of as something that's part of the process, not a bolt-on, within it, because then you're going to have all the processes in line. And like, once you have that data, and speaking with the data scientists, the types of problems that they're exposed to, are then just managing the data and monitoring it, because they want to avoid things such as data drift, right? So like when you have that happen, basically there's going to be an element of the data that statistically changes the properties, advance like quite significantly than initial set. So how do they manage those elements, within it, to make sure that they're creating a model that's not going to just be able to run once, but to continue to advance and go through it. They're looking at primarily 3 different things: covariate drift. They're looking at prior drift and concept drift. And those are elements that are basically looking to say, like, how do we make sure that model is going to continue to run? If you put it in perspective of like a retailer, it's the element of like, hey, there's seasonality to the data. If I didn't plan for Black Friday or some of the holiday things, my model might not give the right predictions to that. If there's elements about my products, maybe the society is more health conscious and there's more movements towards that, I might need to monitor and look for these changes. I might need to retrain these data sets with new data, or just build a model flow that's going to allow for incremental learnings throughout time. So that thoughtfulness, as you pointed out, is really important upfront versus one time and just let this thing roll for too long.
Yes.
Thanks, Phil. That was real insightful. I have a question for you then. And the question is, how should businesses manage the cultural shift within the organization to embrace AI technologies, and what resistance might be encountered within the organization?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really big one. And I think the way they manage it's going to make a big difference in the adoption of it. In particular, there's a lot of individuals that are fearful of it. Is it going to replace my job? And, the aspect of that is really taking a look at it and maybe employing Jevons paradox, which says like, hey, this is going to actually create more of a need for this. So although the role and the things that you do might change to be a little more strategic, the aspect of like what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis is going to be different. I mean, HBR, put out something, it was a couple of years ago, basically saying that AI won't replace humans, but humans with AI will replace humans without AI. And I think that's kind of the concept, of this is like, let's embrace AI as a mindset versus just a tool. Things that can empower people, things that can enhance processes, and something that can ignite innovation, and something that's a tool set that has a human in the loop, showing that you can do better, faster, scale things. And I think that helps create the right culture.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. What we've been saying is the future of business success is not from a career aspiration standpoint, that the people that can go build larger and larger hierarchies aren't going to be the ones who advance in organizations. It's going to be the people who can manage these systems and have small teams of people who can manage these systems, they're going to have outsized impact on the business. And those are going to be the ones that are going to advance in the organization. But net, it's the AI boosted human, right, that's still flying the airplane, and it is not a bunch of drones.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And you hear about some of these more progressive businesses that are planning on just rolling out fleets of AI assistants, many per employee. It's just crazy to think that you might have, a sales rep who has 10 AI helpers helping them with different tasks during the day. And they're really going to they're going to have to be real experts in, being a team leader of a bunch of artificial intelligences. Question for Jeff. What challenges do you face in selecting and managing vendor partnerships for AI solutions, right? What sort of AI partnerships is Tealium looking for to move forward and to do amazing things for our customers?
So it's a blast because the landscape is evolving so rapidly. And what we are seeing, Tealium is by default an ecosystem friendly company. Our whole strategic positioning is to be this company who integrates with 1,300 of the leading vendors and doesn't compete with them. We just try to take the data friction out and work better and help our customers get more value out of their existing systems. And so we're seeing AI fueled startups, and we're seeing the hyperscalers, and we're seeing the large cloud data warehouses, and we're seeing the agencies like the Crederas all embrace this technology and approach it in various ways. But I think from the standpoint of our global enterprise customers, I'd say, the hyperscalers and the large CDWs, where we are trying to give them the ability to take Snowflake, for example, or Databricks or AWS to have their data flow in real time into those systems so that there is no data at rest. And the event data gets turned into visitorized and enriched data in the real-time front-end cache that is Tealium, and gets immediately propagated down into those cloud data warehouses. And you can run your workloads and create predictive scores, whatever you're going to do with AI. Snowflake Cortex, get some prediction scores, and you can activate those back out through Tealium. So we're actively building both integrations and live prototypes, sometimes with customers, sometimes with technology partners. And then we as a company, Tealium, are also embracing AI. And, we just in the last 60 days have brought in-house 3 AI-powered vendors that are new, more startup type vendors, so that we can understand and embrace and use the technology ourselves to deliver a better service to our customers. But, I think that we always listen to the market. We listen to our customers, and whatever new innovative or large innovative existing vendor they tell us is doing something cool or smart or helpful, we then engage in dialogue with that customer and say, we need to connect our platforms because we've got this real-time rich data source for you to go do your magic with.
That's great. And what I'm hearing there, though, is having, the platform to easily get that data into whichever AI tool that you decide is the one for your business at this moment is it's a key to the business's success. And that, yes, there might be a lot of exciting and new AI technologies out there right now, but the field is changing, and having the ability to work with one and maybe work with another and maybe work with a third and be able to choose which one is best for your business, and having a framework like that is really going to help the business be flexible and dynamic. Phil, did you have anything to add on this topic?
No, I think that's really, really important. I think what you're thinking about is the fact that you have to be thoughtful in your approach, right? You're talking about distributing AI insights across multiple solutions, right? And if you think about those solutions, is that they're going to have radically different data structures. on that. So you have to take a step back and figure out, how can I standardize this information, and how can I make sure that I can connect this into all those different solutions. That's one of the things that Tealium does great, right? It has those pre-thought connectors of the data distribution. So utilizing Tealium for that ability to distribute that information is helpful, because otherwise it's a big lift and, you know, big challenge. The thing that we try to tell people within this is, you know, think big, start small, and act fast, because that landscape is changing so quickly. So anything you can start going and doing versus long-term projects, by the time you finish, the landscape might be completely different. You build an AI solution that's now embedded in one of those MarTech solutions, you know, that you're connecting to. They already have it. So just making sure you're making thoughtful movements.
Yeah, in all of those solutions that Phil talked about have their own schema, and they have their own labels for the data sets within their schemas. And if you think about it, you don't want to go build AI intelligence and AI fueled audiences and 8 different systems up stack. You want to build them in one place and then activate against the same attributes across those 8 systems, right? So you bring your audience creating functionality down stack a little bit. We always preach your first party data is your most valuable strategic asset as a company. It's not the real estate your building sits on. And so let's pull all this data together in one place in real time. Let's create the enrichments in your first party language. So I was just at a media company this morning, which they want to know what type of content people are reading, and what sports fans, what sports teams they like, and what kind of outdoors activities they like. And those would be badges and metrics that you would create in this one common data layer that you can then activate through mobile push, through email, through personalized content, through ad, you know, if they're trying to grow their audience, through social media ads or banner ads. But you want to bring that first party data governance function down stack. And then you do replicate that, you mirror it back in your cloud data warehouse, where you're going to do your deep analytics and your long-term historical looking and running some of your predictive scoring workloads. But your first party data is absolutely your most valuable strategic asset. And you don't want to try to understand your customers in 8 different languages from 8 different software vendors that are covering your 8 major channels, right? You do it in your own language and map their schema to yours rather than vice versa.
That's a great point. Thank you for that. And I'm going to shift the topic a little bit. We're going to talk about some real world stories for a minute. I'll ask both of you about some stories from the customer. And we do have one question from the audience, which is about this too. So I'll let you guys talk first. And then if we haven't answered the audience's question, we'll ask that one before we move on to the next sort of topic. So I guess, Jeff, got a question for you.
Let Phil go first. I've been talking too much.
All right, sure thing. Phil, what are some big goals that you've heard companies have for AI that they are attempting to implement or that they have implemented? If you have some examples, real world examples, that's really what we're looking for at this point. So looking to see what you're working with customers on this.
Yeah, and I'd start with, like, usually the way that we look at this is how can AI actually solve some big goals, you know, within this. So we've actually been working with a company that specifically wants to say, hey, we've got this revenue horizon out X number of years. Could we get there in half the time? And in order to do that, what would be required? So we're looking at things that can accelerate the speed of new products out into the market, can also be higher engagement, interactions with people. So looking at ways that AI can do that. For instance, can you create new products faster? So identification of new molecules, and it could be across anything from life sciences to and engineering mechanics, as well as just plastics. Like, all these companies are looking at those type of things. So using AI to identify those new molecules. Then specifically on that, it's like, how can we make sure that we can reach people better? So the personalization is and the engagement of it is going to be in. So can we create content that is going to resonate with a specific audience? Can we understand what content is performing best to this this target audience. So like what elements within all that media is performing, not just the fact that I put this whole image out there, but maybe the fact that it has artwork in the background. That's something that people are doing right now. And then just the identification of better micro segments within the field. So can I make sure that I'm getting the right people even in faster time, so that those large media spends that are being out there, how can we make sure we're magnifying that? So if we're getting new products out there faster, we're engaging with people faster, you're going to have better uptick. So that's an example of how you can approach a large business objective and actually using AI across the business to help amplify that. So those are a couple examples. Happy to talk about more, but that's like a big audacious goal that's out there, and how AI is helping support that.
Yeah, and I think that micro audience topic, that is very common. We're doing a lot of work in big pharma, and so big pharma launches multiple drugs to multiple audiences across multiple geographies, which have multiple regulations, right? So if you're launching a pulmonology drug in Spain, you need to send a different message to potential patients than you do to healthcare providers, than you do to pharmacists, than you do to researchers. And the rules are different in the UK or in the US, right? So the idea of having higher and higher fidelity around your visitors and more granularity, it's important for conversion, but it's also important for compliance. Mm-hmm. And needing a data governance platform that determines through all channels, not just one channel, all channels, which content you get to which audience at which time is really critical.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know the goal for so many marketers is really that one-to-one personalization. And if you have 1 million customers or 1 million potential customers out there, I think the only way that we're really going to get to that one-to-one personalization is with the help of AI, or else you might have 10 segments, 100 segments across those 1 million people, but to have 1 million segments is just something that's not going to be possible with just our own human brains behind there. I guess, Jeff, did you have any other specific customer stories that you wanted to share, how our customers are leveraging AI right now?
Yeah, sure. I have, one recent one. I was at a large chip manufacturer, and they are observing visitor behavior on their website, where they have like a project configurator. And this company has over 80,000 different products that they could sell their browsers. And so they take the behavioral data they have from Tealium, as far as what is this visitor looking at now? What have they looked at in the past? Mm-hmm. They take a vector database, which has all their 80,000 plus parts in it, which no human salesperson could ever memorize. And they ask the LLM, hey, speculate what industry this person's working in and what project they're working on, and then recommend the other 3 or 4 parts out of our 80,000 that our sales team should contact them to suggest they add to their project. Mm-hmm. And that then gets pushed into the CRM, and it's activated through the sales team. It could also be activated back on site if you wanted. And so that's a perfect use of an LLM, because you're taking real-time behavioral data. You're taking a set of knowledge that's bigger than any one human, because probably the best salespeople at this company know their top 400 products, not 80,000. Mm-hmm. And you're getting an actionable answer that's going into the CRM, and they're seeing real results. We have another, so that's a great example of what's known in the industry as a RAG, retrieval augmented generative solution. And we have a financial institution that's taking the same behavioral data from web and mobile and call center in real time and adding it into their fraud calculations. So they've got an AI-powered fraud algorithm. And anytime you can increase the data surface area that your fraud algorithms get to scan, you're typically going to identify and stop more fraud. So this particular institution is doing just that. Again, using this behavioral data. And most fraud in financial institutions, these fraud products of today, they have all the transactional data from the back end, but they don't have the behavioral data from the front office. And so adding behavioral data into any kind of fraud. And then I'd say the third most common thing we're seeing is well, probably two more. One is sentiment analysis. So we have customers that are looking at both text interchanges and then voice interchanges, and then identifying sentiment, and it'll put a sentiment score on that visitor's profile. And then they can activate that again through all channels. And then we're seeing next best action or next best product recommendations using Tealium and some AI powered platform like a Pega or any of the other AI solutions out there. So I'd say those are probably the top four we're seeing.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great. I've heard similar things from some of our customers also, and some of our partners. So moving on from some real world examples, I wanted to talk about our partnership and our strategic approach. And I'm going to start with a question for Phil. Just, what is Credera's data pipeline strategy for AI implementation, and how does that sort of compare versus maybe the work that the data science team is doing with the sort of like the full data set versus leveraging tools like Jeff was saying that have AI built into them, and what's Credera's overall approach to that?
Yeah, I think one of the things we have is we've got an accelerator specifically within this. And Jeff hit on a really important thing, is that the importance of that first party data. In the past, that has been like all over the place across the organization, across different agencies with it. One of the main things that we do, since we work heavily in the marketing space, is we've created an accelerator to bring the behavioral, the media performance data, and that operational data together. And how quickly can we get that into an environment where the data is transformed and structured in a way that's useful, not only for ad hoc analysis, but then also connected into a data science environment. So we've done and created those blueprints on how to do it with AWS, GCP, and Azure. So tools that they appreciate, because before you get into the use of these large language models, you have to make sure that your data is set up appropriately, and the importance of labels, annotations of it, so that you'll get the most out of that. So we've created an accelerator that helps us within that environment. And then we've actually have available over 450 different models to help specifically in the marketing environment. It's part of the fact that we're part of Omnicom as the technology and management consulting arm of that, to help employ those elements. And we can take those models and actually make them available either to package solutions as well, like Pega, or we can also connect them into solutions like Tealium to make sure that all that data gets pushed out and distributed into all the different MarTech solutions. So the way that we want to make sure is that, are you thinking thoughtfully about all the different data sources? Are you transforming that data? Are you structuring it? And are you making sure it's connected to the rest of the solutions in an enterprise governed way versus a point-to-point solution on that?
Yeah, I think that enterprise governed, those two words are really important. We are seeing our most successful customers establish data centers of excellence that are cross-function, because each department has their own data, and the bigger the company, the larger this problem becomes. The call center team has their data, the email team has their data, the mobile team has their data, the web team has their data. And only through creating basically a C-suite endorsed data center of excellence, where we say, hey, everybody, we're on the same team. We're going to collect our data in one place across our silos, across, from all of our organizations, so that we can have this one golden profile that we can all then benefit from. And then that data center of excellence is involved in going around and, like one large pharma we work with, they're literally doing road shows country by country. They do one in Japan, they do one in England, they do one in Spain, where they go around and they show the teams what they've done in this one market. And so once everyone can see that success, it really eliminates the barriers of, and then this is complicated by every single vendor knocking on the door of these enterprises, says, I have an AI-powered thing here, and I have an AI-powered thing here. And so establish, an enterprise governance level data strategy. If you do not have a great data strategy, it's going to be really difficult to be successful in AI. And think across the entire organization. We always say, like, just go in with a clean slate, a whiteboard. Don't think about the systems you have and the schemas they have. Just say, how would we like to think about our customers? What are the visitor data or customer attributes we would like to collect? And you might literally, I have a customer, a large media company, he has 1,000 attributes in his data layer, and he uses them all for different reasons. So let's whiteboard what is the information we would like to know about our customers and prospects. And we can then map from the various software systems that we use into that. And in real time, we can always be listening to all of these software systems and adding to these visitor profiles that we have in real time. And activating in real time. And Josh, you mentioned, the holy grail of the audience of one. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? When you operate in real time, that's what you end up having, an audience of one, because on an individual basis, someone is, let's say, put in a meta audience or taken out of a meta audience based on their behavior, based on how that audience is defined and what attributes. And you get real-time conversion information back from Pinterest, Meta, Google, Reddit, based on that person's conversion in real time. So everything really does become an audience of one when you are actually architected in real time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think, Jeff, going back to what you were saying a minute ago about going on a roadshow to sort of explain the capabilities within the organization and sort of sell these capabilities, I think that's a great approach, because I see sort of the goal and the aspiration to do these great things with the AI, and at the same time, maybe a little bit of fear because you're not an expert, maybe a little bit of fear because it's sensitive data and you want to make sure you're doing this the right way and you have the right guardrails built into it. So you have to sell for multiple reasons, and I think that's a great approach for the business to take. Phil, I heard what you were saying before about your approach, both sort of with the data science and offering all those models, and then also balancing that with third-party software that also uses AI. So I have just a little follow-up question for you, and just wondering, how does Tealium, from your point of view, support and improve the performance of AI in those sort of two areas, right? So you have the data science team and maybe their homegrown AI project, maybe using your models and some of your data along with our data in support. But then you have other products, we'd referenced Pega before, other products that have AI built into it. And how do you see Tealium supporting both of those sorts of initiatives?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece is the flexibility that it offers. So we encounter clients that really want to work within their own tool sets. They want to build some of the decisioning capabilities using AI internally. And we've got great success stories of the ability for Tealium to provide real-time data into those models and actually accept that back and give great experiences on the web and within mobile. And also then to be able to use like maybe even propensity models and audiences that are sent out within advertising, marketing channels for paid or even just CRM. So it's that connectivity piece of it. But then the fact that they also have connectors built into systems like Pega. For instance, we have an accelerator that allows the capability to connect all those three things together. One, proprietary data science environment where you can run up your own models and connect that into Pega. But the conducting is actually done by Tealium. So that's the ensuring that you get that real-time data from all the different channels and the ability to interact with both of those systems. But then also the flexibility to connect out into the next best action of activating what those decision engines recommend next, because of the fact that there's hundreds of connectors within that. The thought of actually building that out internally is just something that would take forever. So it's not something that's manageable. So, we talk about thinking big, starting small and acting fast. That allows us to do that because we can immediately start activating things within that. So
excellent. I got one final question for Jeff, and then we'll see if there's any questions from the audience or comments from the audience. So feel free to jump into the chat and add anything if you like. The final question is, again, for Jeff, what does a partner like Credera bring to our customers to make their use of Tealium and their overall MarTech strategy successful?
So Well, they're hands-on experts, right? Like we are a software company, and that's all we want to be as a software company. We don't want to build a services agency like the amazing folks at Credera. And so we look for partners that are hands-on with the technology, that can do that whiteboard session like I talked about, that can ideate with the customer. What is your business strategy? And then how does that then drive your data strategy? What is your ideal enterprise data architecture? And then how are you going to activate that through the different software vendors mix that you have selected? And the Credera team is amazing at doing that. So, that's what we look for, is people that have an action bias, that aren't too academic, and who actually make things happen in the real world. Because at the end of the day, it's about, you can have the most brilliant AI model, but if you have no activation against the output of that model, you actually generate no business value. Right? Okay, this thing theoretically says this, but if you don't change the customer experience and move the needle, you're actually not deriving actual business value. You're actually increasing costs without anything on the top line. So, we love their action bias and the fact that they know how to use our technology and everyone else out there in the ecosystem to actually make things happen and drive real business results.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that. So we're at time for our sort of panel discussion right here. Wanted to just take the opportunity to maybe ask one question from the audience. So this is for either of you. How do you address concerns for customers regarding privacy and trust in AI-driven interactions, right? This is, you hear about some vendors who put on guardrails. What's your thought on how to implement guardrails and what businesses should be thinking of when it relates to privacy and AI? I guess I'll ask Jeff first. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, we start by having consent orchestration. So we'll collect consent from whatever consent management platform the customers are using, and that consent status carries through the visitor profile through the whole data supply chain. So and we also do have a little consent manager ourselves for customers that don't need complex consent. But it's all about consent in real time, because like I said, someone can opt out, and if they've opted out 4 hours ago and you're still hitting them, then you're in violation. And there are more and more, not only country regulatory bodies, but also plaintiffs' attorneys here in the U.S. that are going around enforcing these privacy regs. So it really is critical.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Phil, any last thoughts on privacy and consent and how that needs to be enforced with AI?
Yeah, I think a lot of it deals with ensuring you're getting all the right people together to start with. So like anytime we're bringing in, and creating these data pipelines, we have not just the data engineers involved, but we have legal involved. We got marketing involved. You've got any compliance environments, involved. We talked about just the concerns from pharmaceutical companies or within finance, making sure those regulatory bodies are part of it and establishing a very agreed upon status to begin with. So usually it's that data pipeline flow and having everyone review and say like, this is the right approach. And there's processes in place to ensure that they're there. Because I think to a certain degree, specifically with data and with AI, it's earned. So you have to make sure that everyone is right within there and they're seeing the benefits of it. And you're talking about, like regulatories and compliances. Is it you're talking about today or tomorrow? Are you involving and creating groups that are making sure that they're looking not only right now, but understanding like what's coming down the pipeline? We've developed, an AI forum that is made up of legal, it's made up of education professionals, it's made up of people across many industries. We make that available to our clients, basically to say, as you're encountering these problems, if you want to ask this forum any question, we can make that available just so you can get their perspective on it. Because sometimes it's like, have you seen this within your industry? How do you do it? It's outside of mine. That's important. But also like, this is brand new. What is the market how's it gonna address this? And what are your different thoughts on that? Understanding that there's gonna be some new domains in there and ensuring that all the avenues are available within it.
Awesome. That's great. I'll just give each of you a moment for a final thought. if you had any final comment you wanted to make here. Here's one that I heard last week I thought was really interesting. Is that AI is the worst today that it will ever be, right? Like every single day, these algorithms are getting smarter and smarter, and the human brain can't even comprehend the exponential growth that these platforms are going through right now. And I think, Phil, when you're talking about what's going to happen tomorrow with governance, right? Like what's going to happen tomorrow with AI, it's the same thing. And I think we're in a real exciting place right now. And kind of some things we expect and we think are going to happen next year, and lots of things are going to happen that we are not expecting. So it's just, it's real exciting for me to be part of this. So I'll leave the final comment. I don't know, Jeff, if you had any final words for the audience.
Well, our view is, as I said before, it's a strategic mandate, an existential mandate to embrace this stuff and learn it and figure out how to navigate. AI is not going to replace the existing customer delivery channels. That's the other thing we believe. It's just going to add more on. Just like when the internet was invented, it didn't replace call centers or branches or stores. It was just another delivery channel. So, the whole idea, the science of customer experience enhancement is just getting more complex. There's going to be more channels. The voice, think of the internet disappearing into the walls and the whole voice operated world. Think about augmented reality. All of these things are going to be AI powered, and every software package you use inside your company is going to be AI powered. But you can't be successful with any AI without the right data, right? So it all goes back to us to having a very solid company-wide data strategy for collecting, enriching, filtering, and distributing that consented data and the anonymized data for non-consented visitors, but you can still enhance experience for an anonymous visitor. But that data strategy is critical. No data, no AI. And then the other big piece of it is, now that you have your AI results, activation, right? So great AI without activation, no business value either. So just, leaning in and getting your hands on these tools and thinking about a sound data strategy is absolutely critical, we believe, for long-term success and competitiveness.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. Phil, any last comments?
Yeah, I think kind of looking at like what is making people successful. And I think it's the things that we're seeing our clients doing is when they're taking AI and not thinking of it as like, give me a bucket of AI, but actually how can I use AI to make things faster, better quality, and scale on that. So it's an accelerator within the process. Also making sure that it's not just a line of business that's off going, doing something on their own and not engaging with the enterprise. We've seen, products that have been created but never make it to production because they don't fit in with that enterprise, view. And the last thing I would say is the importance of that first party data. And a large language model is great, but there's one thing that your customers don't have and they can't have, and that's your data. And if you use that, you can build things that are industry specific, but then specific to your company, and figuring out how to make sure that you unlock the value of that data, then that's where you're going to have that competitive advantage.
All right. Thank you so much. I guess just as the final note to the audience, if you're interested in learning some more about Tealium and Tealium for AI, please reach out to me. My email address is right there, josh.wolf@tealium.com. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to speak to you or connect you to the right people. If you want to learn about our partnership with Credera, wanted to thank Jeff, our CEO, and Phil, the CDO of Credera, for participating in today's conversation. I think your points of views are really, really valuable. And I think our audience got at least as much out of it as I did. And again, thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to speaking to all of you who called in. And thank you so much for joining our webinar.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.